It's our great pleasure to have Joan Cronan, the retired Director of Athletics from the University of Tennessee with us. And she is just a phenomenal woman in how she has led people, lots of people of all different backgrounds, leading men, leading women. It just doesn't matter. And one of the things as an athletic director, really look up to her and the things that she's done, the things that she has accomplished. And I know that you as student athletes, from the things she's been there, done that. And I think it's just tremendous that she's taken time from her busy schedule to spend with us and share some things with you. And so I hope you get one or two things out of this that you can implement in your life. And again, I have to thank Dr. Diane Murphy for creating our Women's Leaders for Life program. Her vision and her bringing this to us at Tennessee Tech is something that is because she invests in you. She invests in you, our student athletes that have come after her as student athletes at Tennessee Tech. And just always want to remember Diane and what she's done. I know Joan and Diane are close friends, both female leaders in intercollegiate athletics, and it's just a great pleasure. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Joan Cronan.
Thank you. It is great to be here, and I want to thank your athletic director, Mark, for giving me a great tour, seeing a lot of your facilities, and being in Cookeville. When we are in Knoxville, we go to Nashville a lot. And I always pass the sign, and I stop at the pilot station and get gas. But today, to spend the day on your campus has really been special. And I want to echo what Mark said about Diane Murphy. When you talk about leaders give back. And that's what she has done with this series for you. And if you've been to some of the other folks that have spoken, you've had some great people in the world of athletics to speak to you. So the first thing I would say in life, give back. How many tennis players in here? I got any in the tennis team? Okay. Remember, I'm a tennis nut. Remember, in tennis and in life, it is better to serve than receive. And so what I'm going to talk to you today is about serving and about being a leader and what it takes. I want to talk about a dream. And you can picture me as a 12-year-old, and that was a long time ago. But as a 12-year-old, you know the song, Barbara Mandrell's song, that she was country before it was cool to be country? Well, I was a tomboy before it was cool for women to be in sports. And I tried at 12 years old, I went down to try out for Little League Baseball. And I grew up in a small town in South Louisiana. It was, I knew I was as good as all the other boys playing baseball at that time, and I was going to go play. And I went down to the Little League Park, took my bat and my ball and glove, ready to play, and this nice gentleman looked me straight in the eye and said, "Joan, girls don't play. Girls don't play Little League Baseball." And I was pretty persistent. I said, "But I want to, and I'm good." And he offered to let me be an assistant coach. He offered to let me be a scorekeeper, a cheerleader, all those things. But he didn't let me play. And I knew at that time I wanted to be in a business that helped girls and women compete at the highest level. I have had a wonderful career. I've had a dream come true to come and see the level of competition that you have here, to look at what we've been able to accomplish at the University of Tennessee. And dreams do come true. How many of us remember this last summer? Pitched in the World Series, threw the first pitch out in the World Series game, and got our picture on Sports Illustrated. So to me, this is an example. Whatever your dream is, they do come true. And you have a really heads up because you're learning to compete. You're learning to compete at whatever sports you do, and you have that opportunity to compete at the highest level. Heard a speaker one time say that women needed 3 C's in their life. I thought, well, I'll listen because I've worked with a lot of women. I enjoy doing that. Said from birth to 18, and all of you are past that now, that you needed lots of compliments. Yeah, you did in high school. People need to pat you on the back and cheer you on. Said from 18 to say 30, which is the stage you're in now, you needed lots of confidence because you were making career decisions, marriage decisions, things that were going to affect you the rest of your life. I could go along with that. But then the speaker said that what women needed after 30, or I'll even say after 22, was cash. And I said cash, check, credit card, we'll take them all, right? You're supposed to laugh, that's okay, that's a joke. But I think there are 3 C's that you need that are really important. The first one is, I think you need to learn to compete. And I think athletics is one of the best tools to teach you to compete. I'm writing a book that's going to come out in the fall, and it's called Sports is Life with the Volume Turned Up. And it's lessons you learn from sport that are about life and business. So you're getting prepared for whatever you choose to do, whether you want to be a professional athlete, whether you want to be a banker, a lawyer, or an Indian chief. You're building a foundation because you're going to know how to compete. Competition is important because you need to learn to win, you need to learn to lose, you need to know what it takes to be prepared, you need to know when I didn't work hard enough. I lost that game because I wasn't prepared enough. You need to learn those lessons. I'm going to read you something, and I want you to think about who your biggest competitor is. At the University of Tennessee, I'm going to probably think of Florida and Alabama and Georgia. You're going to think of Morehead State or Belmont or some of those that you go head-to-head every day. If I own McDonald's, I'd probably think of Burger King. If I serve Pepsi, if I'm in the Pepsi, I'm going to think about Coca-Cola. And it's called I Thank My Competitors. My competitors do more for me than my friends. My friends are too polite to point out my weaknesses, but my competitors go to great expense to tell me of them. My competitors are efficient and diligent. They make me search for ways to improve my products and my services. My competitors would take my business away from me if they could. This keeps me alert to hold on to what I have. If I had no competitors, I might be lazy, incompetent, and complacent. I need the discipline they've enforced upon me. God bless them all. Isn't that true? We get better because our competitors are pushing us. If you played in a league where nobody was competing against you in your sport, you would probably be lazy and competitive. But you've got lots of competition, and competition is good. The second C, I think you have to have confidence. To be successful, you've got to have confidence. Now, we've all gone to motivational speakers and we hear them and we get excited and we're fired up. But I don't know about you, by the time I get to the second or third stoplight going home, I'm back thinking, what do I have to do? How do I do it? It doesn't last. To me, to build confidence, you need 2 things. 1, you need to learn as much as you can about what you're doing. You need to build that body of knowledge. If I'm a soccer player, I want to know exactly what plays I need to use when I need to use it. If I'm a basketball player, I can always remember Coach Summit saying that it was rebounds that won championships. Scoring sells tickets, defense wins games, but it was rebound that won championship. So you need to know as much as you can about what you're doing. And then I think you need a coach and a mentor to help you along the way. You at Tennessee Tech have some great coaches and some great mentors that are going to help you be better. Remember one time we had a player at Tennessee and her name was Dina Head. Dina was the point guard on the basketball team. She was a great leader. She was from Detroit, Michigan. Her junior year, We happened to be playing in our arena. There were 16,000 people there. We were playing Louisiana Tech. And Louisiana Tech was ranked number 1, and we were ranked number 2 in the country. 16,000 people cheering us on. At the end of the ball game, we were down by 1 point. And Dina got fouled, which meant she was going to go to the free throw line. If she made the first one, she'd tie it. If she made the second, we would win the ball game. That night, in front of 16,000 people, she went to the free throw line and she missed. La Tech went back to Ruston, ranked number 1. We stayed in Knoxville, ranked number 2. I cannot tell you how many times that spring I saw Dina in our arena shooting free throws. What was she doing? She was working on that body of knowledge. If that ever happened to her again, she was going to be prepared. Well, fast forward the next year, Dina's senior year. We're playing in the championship game. We happened to be playing that year. Coach Davis, you probably remember Virginia had that great team with Dawn Staley and the Twin Towers. And I thought we were better, but they got a lead. They got a lead about 7 or 8 points. They held it to the halftime. They held it to the 3-quarter mark. They held it with about 2.5 minutes to go. Well, guys, if you don't know anything about me, you need to know that I like to win. By this time, I'm beginning to pace, thinking we're going to lose this ball game. We're better than Virginia, but we're going to lose this ball game. We get a steal and make a layup, get the ball back, make a 3-point shot. We're down by 2 points with about 8 seconds to go. Guess what happened? Dina got fouled. That's exactly right. This time, she's going to have to go to the free throw line and make both free throws to tie the ball game, to give us a chance to go into overtime. What did Virginia's coach do? Call timeout to give Dina time to worry about. It's a national championship. It's on national TV. It's a sold-out crowd. And I can remember thinking as they came off the floor, what is Coach Summit going to tell these young ladies at this crucial time? Go back to confidence. You need to work on your body of knowledge. Dina had worked on her body of knowledge. 2, you need a mentor or a coach to believe in you. Well, they came off the floor, and during the entire timeout, Pat talked to the team about what they were going to do after Dina made the free throw. What was she saying? I believe in you. I have confidence in you. If you ever watch that video, she's the first one off the bench. Her shoulders are back, and she has confidence. Now, Pat's smart enough to know that sometimes you might need a game plan too. So after Dina left, she pulled her 2 centers together, and she said, now, if she misses, this is what you do. So she was prepared. She had a game plan. Dina went out, made both free throws, tied the ball game. We went into overtime and won a national championship. So remember, to succeed, you need to be competitive. You need to have confidence. And the third thing that I think is so important is you need to learn to communicate. And you've all gone to seminars, and I bet you've taken speech classes and all of these things. I just want to say one thing tonight about communication. Work on your body language. How many of you have a friend, when you see them coming, this is what they're doing? They look mean, they look mad. Do you want to deal with them? You'd probably rather not. You'd much rather deal with somebody who looks in your eye, puts their shoulders back, and has a smile on their face. Work on that communication. So to me, the 3 C's that you need is competition, communication, and confidence. What's the definition of a leader? We hear that all the time. Anybody want to tell me something they think a leader is? All right. Someone that leads by example. That's great. Good example. What's another thing that a leader does?
Spreads positivity.
What?
Spreads positivity.
Spreads positivity. That's great. Yes?
That's the most efficient solution to the problem.
Most efficient solution to the problem. That's right. How to win quickly, right? Get ahead in the beginning. I like that. Any others? You know, the best definition I ever heard of a leader, it came from Jerry Jones. And if you follow professional football, you know, he's the guy that owns the Dallas Cowboys. And I will be real honest, I really don't like Jerry Jones because he fired Tom Landry, who, if you follow football coaches, I think he's one of the best football coaches ever to coach. So I've had a hard time believing Jerry Jones in his leadership. But we were on a panel one night, and he said his definition of a leader, and it really hit me. He said a leader is a person with a vision and a sphere of influence to make it happen. Mr. Wilson and I were talking today about what's the most important part of our job. It's raising money to help you be able to do all the things that you want to do. That's that sphere of influence. So it's important that you not only know the people on your team, but you know the people on the other team. You know your professors. You know that you could walk up to the president of the Tennessee Tech and say, "I'm Joan Cronan, I'd like to meet you." I have a young lady who works at the Hyatt in Atlanta. And she wants to be in athletics, and I've helped her open some doors with Atlanta Braves and some of those teams. And so she's always looking for ideas and suggestions. And I checked in Atlanta a few weeks ago, and she came running up and she said, "Joan, I have something you can use in your speeches." And I said, "Well, great, I can always use new material." And she said, "You know, we all hear it's not what we know, it's who we know." And that is important. But even important, she added a third thing. It's not what we know, it's not who we know, but it's who knows us. And as you meet people and greet people, be sure that they know who you are and know what your standards are, know what your values are. So when I say, "Oh, the athletic director at Tennessee Tech is Mark Wilson," it's not that I just know his name, but I want him to know me, the person. So spend that time communicating. Spend that time as part of what you're doing. You know, I had an opportunity to be athletic director at the University of Tennessee for 30 years. That's a long time. Had a lot of great athletes, had a lot of great staff, had a lot of great people. And every year we had our beginning of the year meeting like you do here, I'm sure. And we talked about goals and objectives. And I always told them 4 things. The first thing was to remember who you are and who you represent. And I think that's so important. When you put on that Tennessee Tech shirt, when they put on that Lady Vol uniform, I wanted them to be proud, and I wanted them to represent all of us. Also told that same thing to my daughters when every time they went out on a date, to remember who they were and who they represented. Number 2, I always said that Luke 12:48 was my favorite Bible verse. To whom much is given, much is expected. When you think of what you get as an athlete here, it's incredible. The travel, the coaching, the medical care. I went over to your performance center this afternoon. It's awesome. What do we expect in return? Your best. Your willingness to represent Tennessee Tech. Your willingness to work hard. Your willingness to help your teammates. Which brings me to number 3, is that you are responsible for your action and you're accountable for your teammates. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you're out on Saturday night and you see a teammate misbehaving, don't just ignore them. You're accountable for them. Help them. Be sure that they do make the right decision. And then the 4th thing was that the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. Think about that. You're going to work hard to be successful. So don't be lazy. You know, I had the privilege of working with Pat Summitt for 30 years. And unless you had your head in a pillar somewhere, all of you that are here in the state of Tennessee know that she is considered one of the best basketball coaches ever to coach the game. I learned a lot from her. I loved working with Pat. 3.5 years ago, she was diagnosed with the early stages dementia, Alzheimer's strand. What I have learned from her the last 3.5 years is even greater than what I learned from her the 30 years that was coaching. I learned that, we always knew she was a woman of integrity. We knew she was a great coach. We all knew about her stare. We all knew about her winning record, national championships, leadership, all of those things. What I have learned in the last 3.5 years is that she's a woman of courage. Life doesn't ever always go exactly like we wanted. When she came in and said she had been diagnosed with early stages dementia, Alzheimer's strand, I was shocked. We knew she was struggling, but we thought she had arthritis and it was the medication. But when she got diagnosed, I looked at her and I said, "Oh, Pat, we don't have to tell anybody because it's the early stages." Well, in that disease, early stages means you get it young and it progresses fast. So that's not a good diagnosis. And then I said, "Well, we'll just say you have dementia because that sounds better than Alzheimer's." She looked me straight in the eye and she said, "Joan, our program has always been built on telling the truth and having an open book. We're going to say what I have and we're going to battle it straight on." Fast forward 3.5 years, she's never once had what I call a pity pat party. She told me the other day, she said, "I hope I'm remembered for making a difference in this disease, not just winning basketball games." So we founded a Pat Summitt Foundation. We're raising money for research and doing those kind of things. So she took something that's really bad and turned it into something that she hopes she can make a difference in other people's lives. Remember, it's better to serve than receive. And she is serving. Now, she still has her sense of humor. We were playing golf this fall, and she's a pretty good golfer. I think I'm better, but we argue over it along the way. And I got ready to tee off, and I said, "I can hit it further than you." And she said, "Just try." And she killed it, and she hit it further than me. We walked off the fifth green, and I said, "I think I had a 5." And she said, "You had a 6, and I'm the one with Alzheimer's, so keep it straight." So she still has that sense of humor, she still has that drive, and she still has that determination. I am so proud that I've had the opportunity to work with Pat for all of these years. Got a tweet the other day from her son, who is now the head coach at Louisiana Tech. And I told her the other day, I said, "Did you ever think at this time in our career that we would be pulling for Louisiana Tech?" And I really got a big laugh. But he said something that I wanted to share with you that I thought was so important. He said, "Our character determines our choices. Our choices determine our reputation. And our reputation determines our legacy." I'm going to repeat that, and I want you to think about it. Our character determines our choices. Our choices determine our reputation, and our reputation determines our legacy. You as women have a huge responsibility to lead other people. I do think there is a place in hell for women who don't help other women. And it's important that you take that responsibility, Because you're leaders. You're leaders. Everybody on this campus knows that you're on the soccer team, you're on the softball team, you're on the basketball team. So take that responsibility and be sure that you lead. Let's talk a little bit about what you can do to make a difference. How can you make a difference? Who can tell me a story that they felt like they helped somebody along the way? Who can tell me something? Come on, I want you to stay awake for just a little while longer. Yes.
Well, I used to work at Sears,
Mhm.
and we help a lot of people come in looking for things. And this one lady came in, and she had recently maybe gained about 30 pounds, and she was looking for a dress for a funeral. And so the normal response is, oh, our dress section is over here.
Mhm.
There you go on. So she's looking through, and someone tells me to go over and check on, see how she's doing. So I said, did you find anything that you like? And she's almost in tears. She says, oh, I just gained so much weight. My body looks terrible in all these dresses. And so it kind of hurt my heart. So I said, well, let's find you a shirt outfit, So we go through, spend about 30 minutes, and we find this outfit. And she puts it on, and she just starts crying because it hid all of her insecurities. It made her feel really good. That was just really made me feel really good. But
That's good. You took the time. The easy thing to do was just point to the dress section. But you took the time. And again, going back, when Mark said you wanted to remember a couple of things, I'm going to repeat. It's better to serve than receive. And I think that's so, so important. Diane Sawyer is one of my favorite newscasters. And she said that to be successful, you had to be passionate about what you did. She said when she came home from school every day, her daddy didn't ask her what she learned. He asked her, what good questions did you ask today? So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to stand up. Had ESPN come in one day and they wanted to do an interview. And they wanted to find out why the Lady Vols were so successful. Well, I wanted to give them my 30-minute speech, but we all know ESPN just likes sound bites. And I simply said that we had been able to develop a passion and a pride in what we're doing. And I see that passion and pride in what you're doing here at Tennessee Tech. So don't be afraid to talk about it. John Maxwell is one of my favorite authors, and he does a lot of writing about leadership. And the one thing he said that has stuck with me for a long time, he says, the people who know you the best should respect you the most. That means your teammates should respect you the most. You can be a flash in the pan, but the people who know you the most should respect you the most. Okay, let's talk a little bit again about competition and your team. Let's talk about winning and losing. Expectations, setting your goals high. Don't be afraid to say, I want to win the conference championship, and this is what we're going to do. Don't be afraid to write them down. It's important you look at them and say, how am I going to get there? How many of you know what your priorities in life are? Come on. How many of you always keep them straight? It's hard, isn't it? If you ask me what my priorities are, I would say that it's God, family, Tennessee, Knoxville, the state of Tennessee, and making a difference in young people's lives. I think that those sound really good. Do I always keep them straight? No. I say yes to too many things and I get caught up in all of those things. So one day I was sitting at home and I was trying to think, how can you do better at keeping your priorities straight? And I came up with a system that I call the BELLS system. And every day I try to make the bells ring. Now, how do I do that? I've told you my priorities are God, family, Tennessee. So my goal every day, how many of you like to make a list? How many like to check things off your list? How many of you have gone back and put something on your list after you have done it just to check it off? It feels good, doesn't it? It feels really good. I love that. So one of the things that I like to do is make lists. I have all kind of gadgets. I mean, I have the iPad, the iPhone, anything that comes out, I won't. But I still like to make handwritten lists. So I'll try to make the bells ring. How do I do it? I write the letters B-E-L-L-S, and you can come up with whatever system you want to, but it's fun to check it off. To check off the B, I'm going to read my Bible or do a devotional every day because that's important to me. To check off the E, I'm going to exercise or do something fitness that's good for me. To check off one of the L's, I'm going to write a letter or a note to somebody I'm thinking about. Now, you ladies aren't going to like this. Emails don't count. You have to write isn't it fun to get a handwritten note every once in a while? I travel a lot, so just on a card, it's really easy. I'm going to write a letter or a note. The second L is I'm going to learn something new every day. If at the end of the day I haven't said, gosh, I didn't know that, I'm a huge Words with Friends fan. So I'm going to learn a new word. To see, you like to play? We might have to challenge. So we'll see. I love to learn, and that's important. And then the S stands for I'm going to do a special project every day. Now, I do a better job of keeping life straight at the office than I do at home. I hate housework. I have lived all of these years and I haven't found a vacuum cleaner that fits in my hand. I just don't like doing housework. I have a son-in-law that just went to work for Electrolux, and I said, Rhett, do not send me a vacuum cleaner. I'll take some of those fancy kitchen things you have, but don't send me a vacuum cleaner. So my special project is something I do at home. It could be cleaning out the vegetable drawer or my sock drawer or something like that. I would love to tell you that I make the bells ring every day. I don't, but I can tell you the days I do, I feel a lot better about myself. So come up with a system that helps you meet your priorities. You know, Pat's son Tyler, who's now the head coach at Louisiana Tech, when he was in the 8th grade, Pat came home from work one day, and Tyler was sitting on his bed just bawling, crying and crying and crying. And she thought something he'd been hurt or something. She went in and said, Tyler, what's wrong? And out of his tears, he said, I've been cut from the basketball team. Well, you can imagine what Pat's thought was. Who would cut my son from the basketball team in East Tennessee? But she didn't say that. She looked at him and she said, Tyler, did you work hard enough to make the team? No. He said, were you prepared for tryouts? No. And he said, then he looked at her and said, would you help me? And what she said to him is so important, and I think each of your coaches need to tell you this too. She said, I will help you, but I will not start your engine. You have to start your own engine as you go forward. So don't be afraid to start your own engine. The last thing I'm going to tell you is I think it's so important that you discipline yourself before someone else has to. How many of us know when we're not trying or not working hard enough, we're not studying enough, we're not doing all that, and you have these mind talk. So make yourself be more disciplined and discipline yourself before someone else has to. In life, we set goals, we set things that we want. We want to make the dean's list, we want to win the conference championship. We want to do all this where we can be successful in life. And sometimes people measure success only by how much money you make. And there's so much more in life about relationships, about helping others, than actually what dollars you bring home. And I want you to think about this. Money will buy a bed, but not sleep, books, but not brains, food, but not an appetite, finery, but not beauty, a house, but not a home, medicine, but not health, luxuries, but not culture, fun, but not happiness, religion, but not faith. Never get too busy making a living that you forget to make a life. So my challenge to you is serve is better than receiving. It's good to be competitive. Discipline yourself before someone else has to. And let's see if y'all can win the conference title next year. Thank you.